welcome Helen Owiti, who is from Save the Children, who will be our moderator for most of the day. So welcome, Helen. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corey. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I warmly welcome you to committing the Comprehensive School Safety and Resilience in the Education Sector, the regional launch of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework 2022 to 2030 for East and Southern Africa. This event is hosted by the Global Alliance for Disaster Risk Reduction and Resilience in the Education Sector, GADRES, and I'm Helen Owiti. I'm the Director of Program Development and Quality for Save the Children Kenya and the Madagascar Country Office, and Save the Children is a proud and committed member of GADRES. I'm both honored and excited to be moderating this very important event. And it is important for us to know who is in the room. It is fantastic to know that over 300 people registered their interest to be part of this event, and we have 30 people joining us in person here in Nairobi. Ladies and gentlemen, children have the right to safety, security, and protection in schools, to educational continuity, and to participate in decisions that affect their future. The past 2 years, and a little bit over that, have revealed growing threats from the expected and unexpected impacts of climate change, violence, and conflict, and health hazards. All of us are now painfully aware of the importance of planning for educational continuity. In the past 2 decades, 1 billion children have had their lives and education disrupted, and 80,000 plus schools have been damaged or destroyed by disaster attacks. We continue to learn the wide-ranging profound impacts of vast inequities on children's education, and from the global pandemic. And in just the past few months, we have witnessed devastating flooding in Pakistan, war and displacement in Ukraine, extreme temperatures in Europe, all disrupting education and threatening the future of our children. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the Comprehensive School Safety Framework offers governments a way to protect children in schools and out of school from all risks and all hazards within the education system, being mindful of the fact that we have children in school and out of school as well in this region. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all partners of postgraduates who have led on the CSSF framework revisions, as well as our long-term partner, Prudent Foundation, which is a community investment arm of Prudential Fields in Asia and in Africa, who have really been championing comprehensive school safety for the past decade and played a key role in supporting this updated framework. Hopefully, we should be able to hear more about Prudent Foundation later in this webinar if available. And I hope, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that this has given us a sense of why we're here, provided context as to why this framework is very important, and most so why it is important for us to formally launch it for East and Southern Africa. So I will turn us over, therefore, to the agenda of the day to show up in slides or on the slides in a few minutes.
Dear I'm sorry to interrupt, but may I just ask if the micro of Helen could be closer to her, because online it's a bit difficult to hear.
Roger that, thank you.
Thank you.
And so I move on to just give us a sense of what we should be covering in the remaining part of our 1.5 hours. Very exciting speakers in the room, and we'll try and compact all that within 1.5 hours. And also then be asking that all of us take time or try to keep it tight to be able to go through everything. So we'll have the introductory remarks, and afterwards, and the introductory remarks will be made by UNESCO, and then we'll also be taken through a snippet of what the CCF is all about, and then we'll have some endorsements and support from different governments and partners. So we have statements from our 3 countries, Kenya, Madagascar, and Mozambique. We'll also be having our youth speaker who will speak to us about why school safety and resilience is important within the transformation of our education. And equally, we have statement from the regional body that we also have some brief statements from organizations who will then also give us their reflections on why CCF is important within the context of the work that they do. And finally, we'll have closing remarks from UNICEF, who is currently co-chairing Douglas. And as I said, ladies and gentlemen, due to a packed agenda, we'll have a very brief question and answer session. And for those of you joining online, I would like to therefore encourage you to please post your comments and questions in the chat box as we go along. There's someone or there are people really available to respond to those as we keep going on. And the chat moderation will also be answering your questions in the preferred language, so English, French, Portuguese. And we'll also report back on you on any unanswered questions, as well as share the links to the recordings after the event. So before we begin, may I take this opportunity to encourage everyone here to help us amplify this message by reaching out to all your networks on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, internally, within your own organizations, and even within yourself and community of practice, because we want this word known far and beyond. We also ask you to please use the following hashtags when tweeting or posting. So hashtag Save Children, Safe Schools, hashtag CSSF commitments, hashtag Safe in Schools, and be sure to tag Douglas when posting. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, therefore, I would like for us to open up this session, and I'll invite Mr. Sendai, Education Chief from UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa in Nairobi, who will give us brief opening remarks.
Asante sana. Good morning, everyone. My name is already there on the screen. Just to say that I'm representing the regional UNESCO Regional Director for Eastern Africa. With some countries which are found in SADC zone. Let me first acknowledge the participation of all our speakers who will thank them for their leadership in advancing school safety and resilience in the education sector in South Africa. It's very important that champion ministry, young people and donors around the same, bring them around the same table, as indeed we need all hands on deck to achieve the objectives of the comprehensive school system framework implementation. Eastern and Southern Africa is characterized, combined as one region, is characterized by its rich diversity. However, countries in the region are also very united and facing similar challenges, some of which have been highlighted by the first speaker. Educational systems are affected by climate change, conflict, violence, and most recently the COVID-19 pandemic, which we all witnessed during the past 2 or so years. The 2022-2030 version of the CSSF can be seen as a concrete tool at the service of all stakeholders to strengthen their responses to often complex crises and help them plan education in a way that is risk-informed and mobilize resources that are often lacking. Over the past 10 years, the GATRES has collaborated closely with different regional blocs to advance the implementation of the CSSF. Latin America and the Caribbean and the Asia-Pacific regions are the best example. This is where GATRES has long had regional affiliates. In many countries, national disaster management agencies, education and environment ministry are already working together to enhance food safety at all the levels. Now it is time to promote all the amazing work and progress made by countries across Eastern and Southern Africa. GATRES members, including UNESCO, have accompanied their government, their respective governments, and civil society partners at country and local levels to develop school curriculum to integrate disaster risk reduction and climate resilience, engage children and students in awareness campaigns. At the regional level, institutions such as IGAD and SADC advocate for improved access to education for refugee children and the strengthening of early warning systems to protect the most vulnerable from hazards including drought, floods, and cyclones. Our proposal is for the launch of the CSSF to contribute to a renewed partnership through which education will be prioritized, not only because of its sector's exposure to many hazards, but also because education is key to addressing the root causes of vulnerability and resilience. I think this is short enough because I'm now give over the floor back to our moderator, whom I believe will introduce the next speaker coming from our host country, Kenya. I hope they are available. And I wish to thank you all for your kind attention. This is both those in here in Nairobi physically and those online. I also recognize. And I wish you all a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. General, and for reminding us that all this cannot be done by one organization, and that everyone has a place in the space towards the delivery. And so, ladies and gentlemen, a reminder again that all children and youth have the fundamental right to education. Yet each year, for hundreds of millions around the world, they live with the threat of losing nowadays due to conflict, natural and technological hazards, and other threats. Youth leaders have the dual role of being rights holders and duty bearers. And today we have one such leader who would like to share with us on how school safety and the CSSF framework are needed to transform education. My pleasure then to give Teresa Lodge, our youth advocate, the floor to share with us some of her thoughts. Teresa, over to you.
Thank you, Helen. Hello all, my name is Teresa Lodge. I am a Kenyan human rights advocate and I would like to talk to us about school safety. So the government of Kenya, through the Safety Standards Manual for Schools, released in 2008. So the government of Kenya, through the Safety Standards Manual for Schools, released in 2008, recognizes schools as a safe zone. According to this document, schools are legally designated identifiable physical spaces that create a conducive environment for children's safety. But what does school safety mean to me as a young person? I'd say school safety encompasses a positive, inclusive climate and culture where children and young adults do not have to worry about violence, intimidation, or conflict, and can focus on learning life skills and peer interaction. Schools are supportive and nurturing environments that engender learning and development, while at the same time, they remove children from physical harm. The safety of the learner in a conducive social and physical environment is central to the provision of quality education in any country. We recognize efforts by different governments to provide schools with several guidelines, including those on social and environmental standards, school infrastructure, career guidelines, and early childhood development education. We also applaud efforts by some governments to provide all national and local schools with funds to procure firefighting equipment and to combat child abuse and child rights violations. More specifically, we recognize efforts that have gender-specific sanitation facilities for boys and girls in the schools. This has ensured the protection of girls in school and their active participation in learning environments. But access to proper sanitation is not enough. Sanitation facilities in schools, in informal settlements, are just not enough. Period poverty still exists. Girls are still forced to engage in transactional sex to get pads and other reproductive services. Learners are faced with multiple threats within physical and social environment of schools. Apart from these personal threats, we have insecurity coming from inappropriate school facilities and infrastructure. Presently, we have the looming threat of collapsing buildings which harm the safety of learners. Looking at this picture, there is a great need to invest in safe learning environments. We need to ensure that school construction is in line with the safe building standards to ensure that learners are able to operate in a safe physical environment. We also need better access to proper sanitation and appropriate reproductive health services, seeing that the absence of these services greatly compromises school safety and the ability of learners to enjoy their education. We must also acknowledge that children are often forgotten and not involved in planning for school safety, yet they are the most at risk. The effects of climate change are increasingly compromising the safety of learners. When schools are flooded, when there is drought and hunger crisis, children are kept away from schools. In many African countries, schools are considered to belong to the community. As such, when disaster strikes, for example, if we have cyclones in the southern part of Africa or floods in the eastern horn of Africa, schools are increasingly used as evacuation centers, and this compromises access to schools, especially for girls who are already a vulnerable population. The disruption of learning and access to school environments impacts heavily on girls during these climate-related disasters. In some communities, girls are married off so that they can take care of their families economically, and many girls end up pregnant because access to comprehensive sexuality education and services that are provided by safe school environments are cut. In disaster settings, disruption of learning and the fact that many girls do not return to the education system means that they do not enjoy their right to education and self-determination. What then should we do? We should invest in alternative evacuation centers away from the school system so that we can ensure that education and safety, that there is continuity of education and safety for learners during disaster settings. There is a great need to provide sexuality education and sexual reproductive services to adolescents and young people to ensure that they fully enjoy their social and political rights. We also need to prioritize education continuity for girls and children in disaster settings and invest in inclusive disaster training, preparedness, community planning, and contingency planning, which involves children, women, and girls to ensure that there is resilience and protection. I would like to conclude by reiterating the grounding commitment of the comprehensive safety standards framework that schools should be safe learning spaces where children and staff are protected from all risks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you for reminding us about the centrality of child and youth participation and the fact that children and young people's needs are multiple and therefore we need all to have concerted efforts towards that. Ladies and gentlemen, please a reminder that we are amplifying this message. We are amplifying the conversation. Please remember to hashtag Safe Children, Safe Schools, hashtag CSSF, Children Safe Schools, hashtag CSSF commitments, hashtag Safe in School, and we should tag at Douglas when posting. And as we move along, ladies and gentlemen, we know that the global launch, or as you may know, the global launch of CSSF 2022 to 2030 launch took place September this year. And we would therefore like to show the launch of the video that will provide you with an overview of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework 22 to 2030 for child rights and resilience in the education sector, which was revised to an extensive consultative process involving a range of stakeholders over the past 18 months. So over to you, team online, to showcase the video.
Human actions have created the climate crisis. So, children from Pakistan to England and small island developing states such as mine are on the front line of the climate crisis, leaving education and basic school safety up in the air.
The program has reached 27,000 schools in Indonesia, resulting in regional policies on CSS along with guidelines and modules for the implementation.
Major strategies have been implemented individually in different Caribbean countries to improve school safety. 19 countries are signatory to the CSSI.
When we look at the goals of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework, we see 3 key goals here where we are absolutely aligned with you, and which makes us so eager to support and endorse the Comprehensive School Safety Framework.
As Save the Children, I can confirm today that we are endorsing this new framework, and we will be applying it in our work around the world and with our partners.
I think this new iteration of the CSSF comes at a very timely moment when there are more threats than ever facing education. And I really feel that its importance can't be overstated.
We're taking a strong collaboration approach across all partners, as well as a whole of society approach that's reflected in this socio-ecological model that underpins the CSSF. Really, the idea is to bring everyone together to address some of these hazards, right down from the household level up through to the systems level.
This is really a critical step, a condition, so to say, for building resilience, so that all children and all students can learn in schools where they are safe and protected.
Children's learning, particularly at a time of crisis, needs to be prioritized. Marginalized children need to be prioritized. And it's absolutely critical for each and every one of those children, but for their families, communities, and countries as a whole, that indeed we are successful.
The areas that we've really tried to focus on collectively as an alliance for the framework have been, number one, to really look at protecting learners, educators, and staff in schools and other learning spaces. To look at strengthening education protection continuity and really limiting the disruptions to learning that children have been facing, and also to promote knowledge and skills of learners and duty bearers in relation to risk reduction and resilience building.
We believe that this framework will provide countries and partners with a coherent approach to the multiple risks that face children as they try to go to school and learn.
Our Prudence Foundation fully supports and endorses the work by the Global Alliance for Disaster Risk Reduction and Resilience in the Educational Sector, GADRES, to produce the revised Comprehensive School Safety Framework to protect children's education from all hazards and risks.
One of the major efforts we've made as an alliance is to try and ensure that there's strong alignment between the CSSF and a number of different interrelated global frameworks that are supporting safety, resilience, DRR in the education sector for children.
Countries and partners should endorse the framework to collectively escalate their ability to protect education from the ravages of war and other hazards, and ensure that students and educators can learn and teach in safety and acquire the knowledge and skills to build more resilient, just and peaceful society.
Government and community should come together in improving school facilities so that learning is accessible and pleasant for every child.
I think we should look back at the Convention of the Rights of the Child, as the aims of education hopes to help the children live peacefully and protect the environment.
Thank you very much for that video. And as you may see, for those that are online, there is a link that has been shared to the chat. So if you're interested in learning more about the framework itself, please feel free to follow that link. And just to note that the various translations, for example, Indonesian, Arabic, Chinese, Hindi, Portuguese, French, and Spanish translations will be published shortly. And that national multi-stakeholder school coordination groups will be leading validated translations around the world. And as I mentioned before, we will have some remarks from our government speakers. And before we get to that, please, I will ask the team online as well to run a video on school safety in East and Southern Africa before we move into the speeches from our government. Over to you.
Inam kumchimiat mangkalayul mandengatial. Timalka saif mandemambul.
Satria noho le faravana be dia be taon'ny sekoly dia ilay ankizy dia mitsoaka andaharana zany tsy nianatra intsony a, tsy miverina intsony. Tsy maintsy misy foana ny vona loza ateraky ny rivo-doza eto amintsika. Eo amin'izay fiantraikan'ny rivo-doza izay a, dia manana programme an'asa manokana ny UNICEF iarahana amin'ny ministera fanabeazana sy ny mpiara-ombin'antoka hafa ao anatin'ilay hoe cluster éducation.
Tsy maintsy misy zany ny formation izay efa nataonay izay nanomboka tany amin'ny 2011 tany dia efa nanomboka izy io. Voalohany indrindra zany le module de formation io zany mandeha aloha formena aloha le voalohany ny DREN sy ny Cisco. Ny chef japon-dray ny mampanao formation an'ireo direcole miaraka amin'ny mpampianatra. Ny fanaovana anazy tao amin'ny primaire dia mandritra ny JP. Journée pédagogique zay JP zay zany. Io processus io zany dia mieritreritra hoe tena le cible ny mpampianatra sy ny mpianatra satria ny mpampianatra ampitan'izy amin'ny mpianatra.
Natoroza hedy drapeau mikasiky cyclone. Koa fa misy drapeau maitso koa fa mitranga efa mariny cyclone fa vorona an-dranomasina. Koa fa mitranga sy drapeau mavo efa mariny cyclone fa tany amin'ny district misy antegna efa magnasa mioma. Malaka sase toka boky, toka kaye, toka karapanony, toka copie. Avulingolina atao tany atokisa. Fitopare rano fisotro mady.
Dia misy ilay antsoina hoe stock de prépositionnement zany a. Izy io zany a dia mialoha lavitra ny cyclone dia efa apetraka amin'ny faritra ahina andalovan'ny cyclone ny fitaovana rehetra mety ahafahana manao ny fanarenana. Dia ao anatin'izany ohatra ny tarpaulin izay karazana jefotsy ngeza be labasy zany a, dia 10 amin'izy io mahavita efitrano fianarana anankiray. Misy koa ny atao hoe school in a box. Zavatra maro zaraina amin'ny ankizy toy ny stylo, crayon, goma zany fitaovana hoentina mampianatra. Dia misy koa ny antsoina hoe kit récréatif. Dia misy ny baolina fitaovana rehetra zany hoentina ampiala volony ankizy satria ny tena olana zany amin'ny fandalovan'ny cyclone dia tsy ny faharavana fotodrafitrasa fa le fikorotana tsainan'ny ankizy sy ny fatahorany mihitsy hoe lasa matahotra andeha any am-pianarana. Ao anatin'io koa misy ohatra le hoe salle de classe anticyclonique. Hitan'ny ankizy hoe nandalo ny cyclone fa le efitrano fianarana tsy nihetsika, tsy simba dia lasa mampiteraka fitiavana an'ilay sekoly, lasa mampitsiry fanantenana.
Ny fomba hoentin'ny BNGRC zany a mampiakatra ireo atotanisa avy any amin'ny le toerana mety nandalovan'ireny loza voajanahary na tsy voajanahary reny a, dia misy izay atao hoe fiche EMA zay asahina fenondro tompon'andraikitra rehetra any atoerana voakasika ny ireo loza voajanahary ireo. Dia efa feno dia averina zareo makaty amin'ny BNGRC a, dia ny BNGRC no afaka manambatra an'ireny atotanisa omeny zareo eny a, dia ahafahana mametraka hoe izao zany ny paikady ho atao ahafahana miatrika an'ireo loza nitranga tamin'ny toerana io. Misy koa ireo tompon'andraikitra mahefa any atoerana izay atsoina mivantana mba ahafahanay mahafantatra hoe inona tokoa ny zava-nisy ary inona ny zavatra tena hoe hetsika mila atao amin'ny fomba maika dia maika. Ny manaraka an'izay dia misy koa zany ireo antenne alefanay mialoha, dia ireny olonay ireny koa zany dia mampiakatra ny vaovao aty aminay.
Mampihetsi-po mihitsy amin'io resaka RRC io dia hoe azo ampiarina amin'ny fiainana. Lasa tia mamboly hazo ny olona, lasa tia mipetraka amin'ny toerana azo antoka ny olona.
Zahuli falibe mavita mampiantu taranka kimambo mavivola mandem changa ntanija Madagascar.
Thank you very much. And so we will transition now into having the next session, which will be mostly on the remarks of the countries represented or government represented in this session. So this year marks 10 years since the introduction of the CSSF. During those years, countries have made a number of gains and have learned lessons that are worth sharing. So this morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are, we'll hear from Madagascar, Mozambique, and later on Kenya, who will be sharing these messages today. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'll be inviting the different countries to give us the submissions, starting with Eliane Ranos, who is the Director of the National Office of Prevention of School Accidents in Madagascar. The floor is yours, Eliane.
Chers collègues et partenaires, bonjour de Madagascar. Je m'appelle Eliane Ranous, je suis la directrice de l'Office national de la prévention des accidents scolaires de Madagascar. Vous ne serez pas sans savoir que les écoles de la Grande Île, pour faire écho à l'un des surnoms de Madagascar, font face à de nombreux défis mettant en péril la sûreté des élèves, mais aussi de l'ensemble du corps enseignant et des communautés aux alentours. Le changement climatique n'est pas le moindre d'entre eux. Début 2022, notre pays a été durement frappé par plusieurs cyclones, dont le cyclone Batraï, qui a causé de nombreux dommages dans les régions du sud, détruisant de nombreux bâtiments, causant plus de 120 décès et détruisant les habitations de plus de 91 000 personnes. Des centaines d'écoles ont vu leur toit s'envoler, tandis que le mobilier et les fournitures scolaires de nombre d'entre elles ont été fortement endommagés. Le ministère de l'Éducation nationale, tout comme le ministère de l'Éducation technique et de la formation professionnelle, ont tout fait pour prévenir les risques et répondre rapidement, y compris à travers la mobilisation de fonds. Le ministère de l'Éducation nationale a notamment une unité spécialisée sur la gestion des risques et des catastrophes, ou GRC, qui est totalement intégrée au Système national de réduction des risques et de catastrophes, ou BNGRC. L'office dont j'ai la charge, l'ONAPASCOMA, couvre des aléas au-delà
Office which I'm in charge of is covering disasters beyond climate change. Our mandate is to ensure to every child and their families adequate access to a school security assurance, which aims at protecting children during the school periods and along their way to school and back to home. This assurance concerns school accident insurance. We are equally carrying out many activities for the sensitization with the objective to reduce the number of school accidents. These activities include the distribution of posters highlighting the hazards which can lead to accidents, the propagation of spots for accident, and a great awareness campaign in the entire Madagascar. The training of school of heads of school in order to teach them on techniques of first aid in case of accident. They follow up an accompaniment of uh, of parents of students when it comes to the reimbursement of funds spent in case of school accidents. We are completing these activities with other ones like the annual participation of ONA PASCOMA, the National Championship of School Sports, or a support of campaigns for reforestation through the supply of nursery and young fruit trees and the planting of these trees with students. And this year, 2022, we have set up a project which aims to take into consideration or to cover medical emergencies during the school period. The 194 counties of Madagascar are going to each have a clinic, an infirmary, or a medical center equipped with aside of these emergency centers, students who have personal issues and school difficulties are received, listened, and actually assisted. So these school helps are actually a support to the Ministry of National Education in order to promote all our programs related to hygiene and school hygiene destined for children. Our health workers having been trained for this. This project particularly targets schools in the enclaved and distant areas. 20 school health centers in rural zones have been set up in 2022, and the 40 other ones remaining are going to be set up in 2023. So, globally speaking, the Malagasy government and particularly the Ministry of National Education is receiving in an open spirit and in a spirit of partnership the introduction of the comprehensive school safety framework for our region, which has been promised by many active organizations in Madagascar, be it UNICEF, UNESCO, or Save the Children.
Notre
Its
expérience
launching in Southern Africa and Eastern Africa is an opportunity for us to share our experience and to learn from that of others. And we are patiently waiting for the next stages, which are going to enable us to collaborate in a constructive manner. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for that, and we thank the government of Madagascar for the continued support for children in its territory. And next, we're very delighted to have a recorded message from Pedro Cosa, who is the National Director of the Division of Cross-Cutting Issues at the Ministry of Education and Human Development in Mozambique.
Bom dia a todas e a todos. Eu chamo-me Pedro Alberto.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pedro Costa, Director of the Department of Cross-Cutting Issues in the Ministry of Education and Human Development in the Republic of Mozambique. Responding to the invitation sent to participate in this regional launch of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework, I would like to inform that Mozambique is a vulnerable country as a result of its geographic location. And for this reason, cyclically, it is impacted by extreme climatic events that result in large social economic impact through the destruction of infrastructure, economic and social, as in the case of school buildings, and consequently, the halting of lessons. I should say that Mozambique has established principles and mechanisms to prevent and reduce risk of disasters and their impacts. These methods are well integrated in the national strategies and policies. For example, we have Agenda 2020 and the government's 5-year plan. And it is an approach which responds to the African commitments to disaster risk reduction. For example, the Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction and the Sustainable Development Goals. Specifically SDG 4 and 11. In the scope of these principles, the education sector has worked in reinforcing and building the resilience of schools and children. We have already approved the technical guidance for resilient construction of school infrastructure, and with the support of partners, the production of tools for building school resilience, which prepares schools in the implementation of measures to promote disaster risk reduction. Specifically, I'm referring to the guidance for the elaboration of a basic school emergency plan, which provides orientation for schools to create a minimum plan, which may be implemented before, during, and after emergencies. An emergency. The elaboration of this basic emergency plan is done through the creation of school disaster management committees. These committees are representative and participative. I will end here and say thank you once again for the invitation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And in not a very long while, the representative is the Principal Secretary, State Department of Basic Education, Ministry of Education in Kenya, will make their remarks. We'll try to make provision for them later on. Unfortunately, them to make the statement right now. Just a reminder for those that might have joined whilst the webinar was still on, we have interpretation in French and in Portuguese, and that we are also amplifying our voices on social media. Please remember to have @Betters as you do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can all take action right now to protect children and the future generations. The GADRES website will shortly have the ability to guide you through the process of endorsement, support, reporting, and committing to school safety. We now welcome a few interventions from partners about the importance and relevance of CSSF. We will be inviting all of you, government agencies, UN agencies, international NGOs, civil society organizations, academic and research institutions, the private sector, schools, and individual advocates to join this growing movement by endorsing the CSSF and making a commitment to making school safety and educational continuity a reality in this region. I would now then move us on to some remarks from our partners within the region. Firstly, I would be welcoming Dr. Kebede Kasa Segai, Senior Coordinator, Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Social Development Division at the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he will share his remarks on what IGAD is doing with regards to supporting this initiative. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm happy to join you today in this very important event. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, please, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. And Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observers, my name is Dr. Kebede Kasa Segai, Senior Coordinator of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation. I'm speaking to you from IGAD, a regional economic community for the AU in the Eastern and Horn of Africa region. And IGAD is composed of Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda, 8 countries. So you know where I come from and what I represent. A very important region for today's theme. Allow me to go to my points of reflection in connection with this very important event today. As you know, Eastern and Horn of Africa are the major scene of frequent and devastating man-made and natural disasters, is prone to risks and disasters. This includes conflict, climate change, among them severe droughts, floods, and other calamities, and outbreak of disease, including COVID, Ebola, cholera, and displacement induced by all these factors. Schools are both victims and sanctuaries of disaster emergencies. They are victims of violent conflicts. Students and teachers and school edifices are easy targets of violence. They are also providers of shelter, food, and protection to vulnerable people in their vicinity. So they are the ones that are coming first and then delivering needed services. These dual situations call for concerted policies and actions to ensure protection and minimize damages in educational establishments. The protection is a must and a collective undertaking. States and the international community have the responsibility to protect. Our member states are trying to their best to promote the safety and security of schools, at least in principle, and the reality is somewhat challenging and needs preventive policies as well as strategies. The IGAD-Djibouti Declaration on Education for Refugees, Returnees, and Host Communities, adopted in 2017, and I believe most of you in this meeting know well, at least UNESCO knows very well, and is both humanitarian and development response. It is premised upon Agenda 2063, Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Goal 4, comprehensive response for refugees affairs, CRRF, and the Global Compact on Refugees, as well as the Global Forum on Refugees, aiming at addressing the impacts of disasters and displacement. We work with many of the agencies that are behind the current initiative: UNHCR, the European Union, ECW, GIZ, UNESCO, Save the Children, UNICEF, GIZ, Swiss government, the government of Sweden, and the government of Germany, among others. We are training teachers, among others, in life skills, psychosocial support, to deal with some of the challenges related to conflict as well as natural disasters. The IGAD disaster risk management, and I hope some of you may know, program was launched in 2004. It is based in Nairobi as part of the ICPAC, IGAD Center for Climate Change Application and Prediction and Application. It has developed these strategies to address the challenges posed by disasters. And among others, the IGAD disaster response mechanism has developed strategies that are aligned with the Sendai Framework. There are a number of them, including a climate change adaptation into school curricula, a regional flood risk management strategy, and a framework for integration of disaster risk management and climate change adaptation in the region. There are a number of teachers and experts trained through the IGAD disaster risk management system, and they are responding to challenges of both natural and human resource, human-induced disasters. Therefore, we at IGAD are glad to join hands and are fully supportive of this timely and highly needed strategy. We commend UNESCO, Save the Children, and the member countries that have pioneered this, and the partners that are working behind. I thank you very much and wish you a fruitful launch and deliberation. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sky, and for your endorsement and really painting a picture around the role and contributions of regional economic communities within this subject matter. I will then move on to welcome Nevena Valentinova Seikova, who is the Advocacy and Policy Advisor at the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attack. Over to you, Nevena.
Thank you so much. I'm really delighted to participate today at this important event. The Comprehensive School Safety Framework is important to the Global Coalition to Protect Education from Attack, as it provides an integrated strategy for responding to all the different forms of hazards and risks that learners and educators face, recognizing that they often experience them simultaneously and need responses that can address them all at once. Education is under attack around the globe, and armed violence against students, teachers, and education facilities continues, including in the Eastern and Southern Africa. And I will briefly mention a few data from GCPA most recent report, Education Under Attack 2020, which covers 2020 and 2021. For example, in Ethiopia, in the Tigray region, the UN reported that at least 25% of schools in the region were damaged in 2021. In Somalia, GCP identified 78 attacks on schools during 2020 and 2021. In addition, at least 146 male students were abducted from schools, in some cases alongside their teachers. In Mozambique, Cabo Delgado province, over 100 educational facilities were damaged or destroyed due to armed conflict during the reporting period. But these learners, and I think that what was already discussed, in teachers and their families, are often dealing with these pandemics, natural disasters, and climate change, which can exacerbate the conflict itself as well as its impact. And the CSSF, which is aligned with the Safe Schools Declaration and international political agreement to protect education from attack, endorsed by 116 countries and 15 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. These frameworks are really practical, useful guidance documents for really ensuring that every student and teacher can feel safe. As you know, the CSSF offers guidance on building secure structures, implementing school practices for peace building and social cohesion, delivering psychosocial support, and strengthening education continuity and contingency planning. And these all are key components of implementing as well the Safe Schools Declaration. And in some countries in the region, states have already taken concrete measures to protect education from attack. I just wish to highlight a few examples. For example, in 2021, South Sudan developed Safe Schools Declaration guidelines, which aims to facilitate the dissemination of the guidelines to protecting schools and universities from military use, and their incorporation into the Defense Forces Code of Conduct. In 2017, Sudan circulated a command order to all divisions prohibiting the military use of schools. And Somalia is currently finalizing a safe schools policies. These efforts are really important, and I wanted to highlight that our coalition is really proud to support the Comprehensive School Safety Framework, and we join the urgent appeal for governments in the region to endorse and commit to implement it. Countries and partners in the region should endorse, implement these instruments, and collectively really escalate their ability to protect education from the ravages of war and other hazards, and ensure that students and educators can learn and teach in safety. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Nevena, for the work that you are doing and for the solidarity as well towards this noble cause. I will therefore move on now to welcome Nicholas Hebeck, who is the Education in Emergencies thematic expert at ECHO here in Nairobi, to share his thoughts around what echo theirs and echoes reflections on this issue. Over to you, Nicola.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicolas Herbeck. I'm working with DG ECHO in the Nairobi regional office as EIE thematic expert. I'm sorry not to be able to do this presentation in person, or at least live, but I'm currently traveling abroad in the region, and therefore I was suggested to make this video presentation, which will obviously be around the CSSF and how it's integrated in our EIE policy, but also I take this opportunity to present you some examples of activities that our partners are implementing in the region. So as I was given 3 minutes to do this presentation, I'm going to walk you through very quickly our EIE policy, which has been built around 4 big objectives. The first one being promoting access, inclusion, and equity. The second one, supporting quality education for better learning outcomes. The third, championing education for protection. And lastly, coordination, partnership, and capacity development. Building this policy, we have placed the disaster preparedness and risk reduction under the objective 1, access. And we also have a dedicated disaster risk reduction annex in the policy, which is the Annex I, where the CSSF is explicitly referred to with the diagram and all the hyperlink and the resources. So why is it important for DG ECHO to include disaster preparedness, risk reduction using the CSSF in our policy? It's because the risks and hazards that are introduced during times of crisis cause injury, or worse, for children and teachers. They deter parents from sending children to school, and they inflate the costs of education in places where resources may already be scarce. It's only when education systems acknowledge the hazards, take measures to ensure the safety of learners and education personnel, and plan for educational continuity in the face of these hazards, that investments can provide education access, quality, and equity to fulfill children's potential. So I took from a portfolio of supported actions, I took 2 examples of 2 partners in 2 countries that I'm going to introduce to you now. So as you know, the Southern Africa region is particularly prone to natural disasters such as floods, cyclones, strong winds, etc. So I took 2 examples. The first one is an action that we have supported in Zimbabwe, where our partners have implemented an action focusing on the development of safety and response plans in schools. And you'll see that most of the activities fall obviously under the 3 pillars of the CSSF. So the first one was to establish DRR kit clubs in the schools, and they use these kits to facilitate disaster preparedness, but also they did response simulation drills in schools, etc. Also outreach activities, theater plays that were quite effective in spreading DP and DRR messages within the communities. They also made use of mobile platforms, to disseminate early warning, child protection, and COVID-19 messages. There was also the establishment of evacuation points at appropriate locations near schools or in the communities. And finally, the retrofitting of selected schools for the minimum disruption of education in case of natural disaster. This is a project that I did last year, and the outcome and the impact of the action was quite appreciated, both by education authorities, but also and mainly by local communities, teachers, and parents. And the second example is an experience from Malawi, So you can see in the picture, this is the disaster risk management source book for primary schools that had been designed and released by the Ministry of Education together with the UNDP. So what we did is supporting our partners in disseminating and downscaling this national DRR resource to the school level as a reference training material. So it was that part of the action was highly appreciated by the educational authorities of Malawi. What we did also is to facilitate the development of education and emergency more broadly, manual and guidelines, again in strong collaboration, close collaboration with the Ministry of Education. And perhaps here there was also the specificity was a more on the advocacy side. It was a strong lobbying for inclusion of multi-hazard data in EMIS in order to be able to pre-identify the schools that are prone to be affected by natural disasters, but also in order to put them on the map and make sure that people in charge already know and already get prepared, particularly in these schools, to the response that needs to be presented in case of a hazard. So I was given 3 minutes. I'm already at more than 6, so I'm going to close that presentation here. You have my contact details on the slide, and do not hesitate to also reach my DG ECHO colleagues here in the Nairobi regional office in case of any additional information. Thank you very much, and have a nice event. Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you very
morning.
much. Thank you very much, Nicholas, for sharing DG ECHO's perspective on it. Also really putting into context how CSSF, disaster risk reduction, and EIA looks like in practice. I will now call upon okay. I'll just shift something a little bit, sorry. So I'll call upon Muliro Mashauri, who is the Program Management Specialist at the UN DRR Kenya. Muliro, if you're hearing me or if you have this video, please, over to you.
Thank you so much. I don't know how well you get my photo because I didn't have the photo anyway, so thank you so much. Before I make my statement, I want to appreciate the fact that today we have students. We are talking about students and we have them here. And you understand why I'm referring to them, and I think it's a good thing because most of the time we take these decisions and we forget about them, forget about the teacher, and believe you are the teacher. So this is, I think, so appealing. And maybe I got my speech in the language. So education is one of the sectors that is hugely affected when a disaster occurs. Because after a disaster, you see a lot of injuries, damages, disruption of the learning, and also sometimes it leaves long-lasting injuries to the teachers and also to the students. When you look at the current drought situation in Kenya, you understand a lot of research has been conducted, the international, and the like, that there has been a serious disruption of the learning as a result of the drought event. And so many children are dropping out of school to support their parents in getting water, pasture, and food. But this one way of looking at children and the youth, normally you look at them as victims, like the most vulnerable member of the society. And today I stand here to look at children differently. I want to look at them not as victims, but agent of change. You are the agent of change. You are the future of tomorrow. Okay? You are not powerless. You are active members of the society. And what do we do for? Because we believe that children can contribute to disaster risk reduction initiatives. But for this to be effective, UNDRR advocates for the need to ensure that planning for natural hazard and man-made hazard as well is a priority of every educational institutions at all levels. I mean, all levels, with full participation of children. I think that's the keyword that I want to highlight here. Investing in our resident education system is very paramount. It enables children to reach out their full potential and exercise other rights. This right does not disappear or get suspended when a disaster occurs. Instead, disaster risk management is expected to be part of the education curriculum. A lot has been said about why we should develop this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to focus on these 3 benefits of a resilient education system. One is because it protects students and the staff from physical harm and injuries. It minimizes disruption and ensures the continuity of education for all children. And third, it develops and maintains a culture of safety in school and beyond, because most of the time when we train these children, the cascading effect of it is that they will go and train also their parents, share the information with their parents, and that's something we need also to strengthen. As countries in the region are making strides toward construction and repairs in many sectors affected by disasters, past disasters generally, making disaster risk reduction a priority is a move that can only lead to food safety. And this, in the process, enhances the resilience of the community at large. Therefore, UNGRR, as a member of the Global Alliance for Disaster Risk Reduction and Resilience, supports and endorses the implementation of the Comprehensive School Safety Framework 2022 to 2030, with the expectation that the framework will provide an opportunity to increase the resilience of the sector, and that education stakeholders will be better coordinated in the Eastern and Southern Africa region. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Asante.
Asante sana, Mr. Muliro Mashauri, and for you reminding us of the benefits of a resilient education system, and certainly for your running call around children as agents of change. Thank you. We now do have the representative of the Permanent Secretary, State Department of Basic Education, Madam Helen Aviza. Helen, if you can hear me, please do take the mic. You have around 3 minutes to share your reflections from the Ministry of Education's perspective. Over to you, Helen.
Okay, thank you. I am Helen Avisa. I coordinate education in emergencies at the Ministry of Education, and now I'm representing the PS State Department for Early Learning and Basic Education, and all protocols observed. I would like to thank the conveners of this meeting on considering Kenya to be part of the CSSF implementation in the region, and it's a great pleasure to share the Kenyan experience with the distinguished guests present at Safari Park and those online across the African continent. First, I would say that education is identified as a human right and an enabler of development in Kenya Vision 2030. And on behalf of the Minister of Education and the government of Kenya at large, I'm glad to welcome the CSSF in our country, Kenya. And Kenya is one of the countries in the region that is fully supporting that is fully committed to collaborating with the concerned partners to promote child rights and resilience in the education sector. I would like to let you know that schools in Kenya are not adequately prepared to cope with the hazards and risks that affect children in and around school. So, for example, we have the natural and the human-induced disasters, such as the floods, the just recent drought, which is still affecting many learners in many schools, issues of terrorism, pandemics, conflict and insecurity. These are concerns that has made some of our learners miss on school, and the issue of the CSSF is very much welcome, so that some of these concerns are dealt with, and that the education sector is very well prepared to handle such issues when they come. So the Ministry of Education, we have a disaster management policy which we are implementing, and it was launched in 2017. However, it is missing on important elements that are in the CSSF, and there's need to consider reviewing the policy, and also strengthening the multinational, multi-sectoral partnerships in CSSF, such as so that the ministry is able to deal with the hazard mapping, including design, implementation, and even monitoring, which need to be given at least a lot of concern to ensure that we are well prepared as a ministry. There's also need to carry out the intervention of CSS at all levels of education, starting from the national, regional, and up to the sub-county level. There's also inadequate staff on CSS in the ministry and at all levels, from the national to the sub-county level, where we need a lot of capacity building and even training, so that we have the staff which is very well equipped with the matters concerning school safety. There is inadequate advocacy mechanisms at the ministry, and there's need for support on that in that area. So when we look at the CSSF, we as a ministry, we are really calling for partners to support us in this area, so that we also implement in this area very well in the country, because the issue of preparedness for the school and even intervention is a bit inadequate. And I call upon this forum and other partners to support Kenya, and even our partners who are supporting us in this area, so that we can well handle this area. So I'm in an area which is not well, the internet is not very well, and also other things that I'm dealing with, but I'm very happy to be part of this forum on behalf of the PS, the State Department for Early Learning and Basic Education. I would like I'll post the speech so that it's shared, so that the members can read fully on what we are coming in Kenya, our needs, our challenges, and actually what we require to ensure that we also be part of this CSS and also implement it in our schools. So thank you very much for giving me this information on behalf of the PS who was not able to attend, but a lot will be shared, the speech will be shared, so that the members can also go through it. Thank you very much, and back to the moderator.
Madam Aziza, thank you very much. And as always, thank you for your continued support and endorsement. I would now want to welcome the most important people in this room, the people on whose behalf we are seated here, the children. And please take the stage. The sound. I'd like to welcome Jamhuri Primary School, which is in Kenya, not in Madagascar. And Jamhuri Primary School is part of the UNESCO Associated Schools Network, and they will be here, I think, with a point for us. So please come take the stage and speak to your guests this afternoon. I'm not so sure whether those online will be able to do that, but we can at least hear them. Or we'll turn the camera around.
Ladies and gentlemen, also good morning, good afternoon. We are Jamhuri Primary School. My name is William. I'm the patron of the Espinosa Club of the UNESCO. I'm with my colleague Irene, please. And we've been having activities which enable the participation of children in these matters that touch their lives. And they are not, as Mr. Mashauri said, they are not innocent bystanders, they are not victims, they have something they can do. This is their way of doing it in their own small way and make a contribution. So we are presenting a poem showing their fear in the context of a school. So you can take it away. Fine. So I think we are allowed enough.
All protocols observed. My name is Ushin.
My name is Kamura.
My name is Tushar.
And my name is Sindhu.
From Jamhuri State Primary School. Ready. A poem entitled
The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child enshrines the provision,
Protect,
and participation of the barest minimum in children. The duty bearers being parents, guardians, state and non-state actors, not forgetting we children have responsibilities.
but here. Today we speak to protection, 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 protection. Oh yes, protection of schools. We speak comprehensive school safety for we fear.
Our schools need to be safe spaces, safe and secure as we learn and play, so that our education may continue and be sustained.
But we fear. We fear the hazards around us while at school. We fear. We fear drugs and sometimes abuses coming from ice cream, sleep, pieces, and visit less with narcotics and so that is we fear.
Oh, we fear bullying. Bullying by our fellow learners,
The big boys,
the big girls, deaths have been reported in school. Victims have been put to work. All because of bullying.
we fear. We fear teachers physically abusing us by training us. We fear. We fear emotional abuse when teachers fear our self-esteem in front of our friends by belittling us. We fear.
We fear kidnapping, abduction, being stolen by shadowy people on our way to and from school. We fear. We fear terrorist attacks in school.
We fear net bites in the front class, spider bites in the premises, stray dogs in the bite up in the school compound. We fear. We fear road accidents as you walk to school and back. We ask, who's gonna save us from this danger? Who's gonna make us safer in school? Who's gonna give us comprehensive school safety? We ask. Thank you. I am not sure whether those online had and felt what we felt, but we certainly felt the children's fears. And in a way, they have summarized why the framework is important in very, very simple terms. Thank you very much, young ladies and gentlemen. We are now drawing towards the end of the session. And I want to confirm whether one of my colleagues is available. Okay, just checking online whether we may have IFRC Deputy Regional Director online with us. Yes.
Not yet, Helen. So perhaps I hope that he will be able to join us in 5 minutes after the intervention of our colleagues from UNICEF. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So then I will move on to where's the closing remarks. And now for those particular remarks, we'll turn over the floor to Nika Vanderbilt, who is the Deputy Regional Director, UNICEF East and Southern Africa region, who will then close us off. So take the video out.
Action.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure being with you here at the closing of this important event. I know you did a lot of deliberation this morning after hearing some eminent speakers and participants, including my colleague from UNESCO, Professor Gijssen. And I know also from my colleagues that you've been already preparing and thinking a lot about what's next, what can we do better, differently, in really making sure our schools are safe, resilient, and the children are well protected if they're in school. We all know that COVID has given us quite something to think about. At a certain stage in our region, 90% of the children did not go to school. I don't think many of them actually did some learning. At the same time, we also know that children are hit the hardest because of this COVID. It's much harder for them to be resilient and to bounce back if we don't manage to reach them individually with new ideas and in a safe manner. So not only the schools need to be resilient, also the education system need to be resilient. And you are here to think about it and to take action in the coming years. It's been really my pleasure as UNICEF to work with all of you, because there is no other way than do this together. We make sure that our kids are learning.
Action.
Good. We make sure that our kids are learning.
Action.
Good morning.
All right, that was a bit, not very clear, but thank you very much for that. We'll certainly hopefully get some of the links to that particular internet. So ladies and gentlemen, we've been in the room. We had a lot about what this is about, and the children wouldn't have done any better than to summarize all the conversation and our why, the core reason why this is important and critical. And so you may be wondering, therefore, what's next? What exactly should we be doing after this? And so we want to invite you to work with your own organizations and together with GADRES, the regional affiliates, and your national multi-stakeholder school safety coordination mechanisms on organizational, regional, and national launch readiness, and on building support through endorsements, videos, and blogs. On your screen right now is a list of resources available or options available to you on how to continue preparing this conversation further. GADRES will be working on rolling out translations as well, and on other and development of other longer term strategies as well. So as we come towards the end of this session, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank all our speakers and all of you for your participation, and a special thanks to Jamhuri State Primary School participants for not only speaking and listening in, but also sharing your views in the best way to know how on matters related to school safety. And we also want to thank everybody else for their commitment towards school safety, child rights, resilience, and education sector. A big shout out to the tech team as well for making this happen, making sure that all of us are able to have conversations across the world, across languages as well. So many thanks to the tech team for helping us relay information better. Just a brief reminder that from here, we'll be having lunch together. So vouchers will be going around. So please do stay on and let's share lunch together as we further the conversation. We all know the most important conversations are the meetings after the main meeting. Thank you very much and thank you.